What is up, everyone? This is Jack Slater, aka the Comic Outlaw, and check us out on YouTube. And yeah, we're covering the old school Fantastic Four, the classic Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Jack the King Kirby, I should say, issues. And we're doing issue 10, The Return of Doctor Doom. And guest starring Stan Lee and Jack the King Kirby are guest starring in their own issue. Is this vanity? Is this ego run amok? How did Doctor Doom return? Well, we're going to find out right now. And Reed Richards is basically experimenting on the Fantastic Four. He's using an X-ray machine to kind of see what the extent of Sue's invisible powers are for now. And it's interesting because they're starting to come to grips with their powers. They're starting to use them a bit more. Because in the first few issues they were real sloppy. Their powers were shut on and off, and they're becoming more reliable now. And Reed's trying to look for something, but he's not as good as, like stretching and finding stuff out. And they're also getting fans. At this point, I guess Stan Lee and Kirby are actually writing comics and TV shows for them. They're making toys and action figures. And Reed Richards almost got mobbed by the mob, but stretching's being able to stretch out of it's a good thing. Sue goes invisible to avoid a fan, almost gets hit by a car. And of course, things with Allison. And Allison is the stepdaughter of Puppet Master, who makes these clay figures that he controls. But Allison, in her own right, is a great sculptor. And she starts sculpting like the action figures, like the villains that they've fought so far. The Doom, Submariner, the Mole Man, And we have Stan Lee and Kirby here wondering how they're going to bring Doom back, because he was such a good villain. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Dr. Doom walks in. Takes his mask off. It scares the hell out of Stan Lee and Kirby, and he makes a phone call. And he wants them to get Reed over there. And of course, since they're making the shows and the comics and everything, Reed's going to go over there. He's making them a lot of money. And I like how Thing kind of gets mad and says that he's going to beat up Stan Lee and Jack Kirby for making him look uglier and uglier with all the issues. I mean, it's just a nice fourth wall break. And Reed puts on his snazziest brown suit. And I love this, that Stan Lee and Kirby are just hanging out with Doom. And Doom just ambushes Reed, fires a little gas gun at him, and teleports away. And leaves Stan and Kirby holding the ball. Now, Doom goes on to explain, because the last time we heard of Doom, he was floating away on an asteroid. He got picked up by the civilization, and his first instinct was, of course, to save his own skin. But he figured out these creatures had great abilities, great powers, and great science. He even helped him back to Earth and taught him new methods. One of them was an ability to trade his soul, and the soul of someone else, like body switching. But you have to keep your mind focused in a certain way for it to keep going. And he switches powers or bodies with Reed, and he just takes Reed to school. I mean, Doom's just a better Mr. Fantastic than Mr. Fantastic is. He's just wrecking him. And this just goes to the intelligence and craftiness of Doom. I mean, he thought this out, and he studied Reed's powers. He did his homework. Of course, the Fantastic Four comes in, and they just start beating up Doom, a.k.a. Reed. And Dr. Doom's plan in Reed Richards' body is working perfectly. I mean, Reed is getting his butt handed to him by Thing. And it's just glorious right now for Doom. I mean, he completely outsmarted him. And then now they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with him. And of course, they all have their little ideas as Reed takes out Doom's teleportation device. But Reed is Doom, so And they all think of these little ideas, flame cage, put him in a cave. But they end up locking him kind of in this cave area, in this dome. And of course, Doom doesn't tell the other members of the Fantastic Four there's only an hour worth of air left. Yes, just 1 hour. And Reed walks off. Well, Doom walks off. Now, there's all these little animals running back and forth, and the Fantastic Four cannot figure out what's going on. All these little zoo animals, but they're miniatures. They almost look like toys. But they are alive. And while they're trying to capture them and what they're trying to make from all this, they figure out that it's Doom doing it in Reed's body. He's developed a shrink ray. And basically he goes on the story. He goes, if the dinosaurs had smaller bodies And it would give them room. It would have given them room for bigger brains. It would have been more an advanced being. And basically, he just starts spinning this tale on how it's going to increase the Fantastic Four's powers if he shrinks them down, and then kind of like shrinks them back up. The Thing would have more control over him. Like it's just a tale that Doctor Doom spins, you know. And of course, Doom's very good at this. Doom's very good at show and tell, showing someone everything and yet telling them nothing. And of course, Thing and Torch have to get in their little fight about who's going to go first in this machine. Now, what Doom doesn't tell them is that the shrink ray will work, as he said, to a point. But it's going to shrink and shrink and shrink them until they disappear into the subatomic universe. And anyone that watched Ant-Man Part 2 knows what that means. Super shrinky dink. Of course, Reed is using his mind in Doom's body. He used the mask to crack the glass, and then he used the oxygen cylinders to kind of break his way out of it. And he's back in the Fantastic Four's hideout. He gets knocked out by Sue Storm because he was coming into Allison's work studio, and Sue just surprised him and knocked him out. Now it's Allison. Keep in mind, Allison's blind, but she has like a sixth sense. She's able to sense a nobility in him. And that's just kind of, you know, it's interesting. And then Thing comes in because Thing and Allison kind of have a relationship, and he comes in ready to clobber Doom, aka Reed. But of course, he comes to his senses. They capture Doom Reed and end up having him in custody. And Doom Reed is trying to figure out how to convince him that Reed Doom is the bad guy. But they get into an argument about it. And then the interesting thing is while they're working this out, someone actually throws a stick of dynamite in by accident. And of course, Reed Doom tries to save his own skin, and Doom Reed jumps on it to save the other members of the Fantastic Four. And this is the spot where they realize that their bodies were switched. And at this moment, Doom Reed loses it. He loses that concentration. They switch bodies. And Doom, now in his body, is trying to get away. Engages the Fantastic Four and ends up getting hit by his own shrink ray. And now he's shrinking. He's melting. Doom's melting. And then he disappears into the subatomic universe. But you and I both know this isn't the end for Doom. When will he be coming back? We'll find out the next time, and I'll catch you on the flip side.